June is Audiobook Month. Join Viviana, the Enchantress of Books, and the Audiobook Lovin Series as she celebrates the authors and narrators who bring your favorite stories to life.
Hey everybody, my name's Tim Ratliff, audiobook narrator and voice actor, and happy Audiobook Month to you. My latest audiobook came out this week just in time for Audiobook Month, and I'm proud to present to you The Galactic Detective Agency, Book 1, A Town Called Potato, written by Gary Randolph and performed by Tim Ratliff. This story is a sci-fi murder comedy with full of dad jokes and all kinds of lighthearted humor, and it's just the best. I bet you can hear me smiling during the production. It was such a treat to work with Gary and be given the opportunity to narrate this story. My absolute favorite part of this book was the 2 times that I got to do my absolute best William Shatner impression and shout from the rooftops, "Con!" If you're looking for your next audiobook read, I would highly recommend this book, especially for people who want a fun, lighthearted sci-fi murder comedy. Chapter 1. My Used-to-Be Life. A blue light pierced the darkness, whomp, slicing through air, fabric, and wood to cut a fiery fist-sized hole through the armchair right beside me. Resisting the urge to duck and cover, I bolted after my assailant down the line of chairs. The line made all the longer because the chairs were huge. Each one as tall as my garage back home and as wide as a couch. Darting under a giant end table, I peered through the gloom, searching for signs of movement. A shadow passed in front of an enormous ottoman. I raised my blaster and took a shot. It missed wide to the left, causing the fine red upholstery to burst into flames as the shadowy figure darted under a giant couch. They hadn't hired me to burn down the place. I ran to the ottoman and patted out the embers, wishing I had spent more time in blaster practice. It had seemed so easy in the daylight, with targets that didn't shoot back. A rustle sounded from the direction of the couch, and I hit the deck in time to see another blaster shot whiz past where my head had just been, blowing a wooden table into kindling. I rolled under the ottoman, regretting several of my recent life choices. I mean, last week, nobody was shooting at me. Last week, I didn't even know that blasters and planets with giant aliens in any of this existed. I muttered, "How did I ever get myself into this?" I can tell you how I got myself into this. It started the day that guy out in Plainfield called me. Seriously, that's the name of the town, Plainfield. I was in my home office working on my computer and writing software for clients when the phone rang. I stared at it for a moment since my preference is to be texted or emailed. The number wasn't anybody in my contacts list. Probably a telemarketer, I thought. But when you're in business for yourself, you take just about every call. You never know. I tapped the pickup button. "Gabriel Lake here." "Yeah, hi," the voice drawled. "I have a trucking company out here in Plainfield. Your website says you do phone apps. Is that right?" "Just like the website says," I replied. "Okay. See, we have to do these low tickets with fuel and mileage and stuff. Government regulations. I'm having a hard time getting my drivers to complete them, and I thought an app might help." "It might. How much would something like that cost?" It's never a great sign when the first question from a potential client is about cost. "It depends on how complicated it all is," I said. "Tell you what, I can do an analysis, no charge. Can you email me the information on what you need? I'll check it out." He paused for a beat or two. Could you maybe come see me?" I hated going out on appointments, but I said, Probably. You said you're in Plainfield." "Yep." "Okay, sure. I can run out." You can show me the form and explain what goes into completing it. Then I can give you an estimate. I have some time this afternoon. Sounds good. How about 4 o'clock? I thought that way I could get some stuff done first and then end the day with the meeting. He gave me his address and we hung up. Turning back to the laptop, I noticed by the clock in the corner of the screen that it was time for lunch. I rolled my desk chair back and padded from the home office into the kitchen. Scrounging through the fridge failed to locate any lunch meat, so I pulled out my phone and added cold cuts to the growing grocery list. I fixed myself a peanut butter and banana slice sandwich and sat down at the dinette table. Reaching for the Raymond Chandler detective novel that was face down on the table, I opened it up at the scrap of paper I was using for a bookmark. I chomped down the peanut butter while following Philip Marlowe through the dark and seedy streets of mid-20th century Los Angeles. Marlowe was digging up clues, and they all pointed in one direction. But maybe there were red herrings. Perhaps the real culprit was someone no one suspected. It might even be the gal Marlowe was starting to fall for. I finished the chapter and the sandwich, then grabbed a couple of cookies from the package on my way back to my home office, aka the second bedroom in the little bungalow. My afternoon job was to get a data import running for a different client. I finished it by 3 o'clock, giving me plenty of time to change from jeans into khakis and check out a few funny videos on the internet before leaving for my meeting with the trucking guy. I grabbed a jacket as I left the house. Early March can be chilly in Indianapolis, and on this day, the sky was gray. From my bungalow in the Fountain Square district, it was only about a 30-minute drive to Plainfield across, as Philip Marlowe might say, the mean streets of Indy. Except Indy streets aren't really that mean. They can be rough, though, especially during pothole season, which lasts about 6 months from midwinter to whenever the city's new budget kicks in. I pulled into the gravel parking lot at 3:55 and walked up the concrete steps to a mobile trailer with a sign on it that said, Office. A bull of a man with a square jaw and thinning hair sat behind a metal desk covered with folders and papers. Metal filing cabinets stood behind him, also strewn with papers. A table nearby held a dirty coffee maker and yet another mound of papers. Are you Lake? He asked without standing. I nodded, and he waved me toward a chair. It too had a folder on it, which I perched precariously on top of one of the piles on the desk before taking a seat. The meeting turned out to be less than productive, though it certainly lasted long enough. In addition to information about the proposed app, he had to include a rant against government regulations in general and a few of his drivers in particular. The app turned out to have more complexity to it than I had first anticipated. So, when I shot him a ballpark price, his eyes widened in surprise. Son, I ain't planning on taking you on as a dependent. What are you driving out there, a Cadillac? Apps are complicated, I said with a shrug. I knew I could suggest some things to trim the cost, but with his long-windedness, I wasn't that enthusiastic about having him as a client. I could see every meeting and every phone call turning into a marathon session. I let him turn me down, and I left the trailer and got back into my car. For the record, it's a 10-year-old Honda. As I started the engine, my phone buzzed. I tapped it to life and saw a text from my friend Adam. Coffee, 9 a.m. Buzz House. Be there? I tapped the suggested answer for yes and started the car. Well, that's all for now, guys. If you want to find out if Gabriel Lake can crack the big intergalactic case and catch his man, you'll have to buy the book to find out. Again, happy Audiobook Month and have a wonderful day.
If you enjoyed the Audiobook Lovin Series and you want more, join the Audiobook Lovin Podcast Patreon for early access to podcasts, exclusive content like the Would You Rather game and dinner party guests, and additional incentives such as bloopers, graphics, and much more. Support the podcast by becoming a Patreon at www.patreon.com/audiobooklovin. Thank you for joining Viviana and her guests for this podcast, and we hope you tune in again as we continue to celebrate Audiobook Month. The Audiobook Lovin Series is hosted by Viviana, the Enchantress of Books. Please make sure to visit the main page linked within the post to learn more about the entire Audiobook Lovin Series and the enchanting author and narrator guests who have joined us over the years. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please consider leaving a review wherever you listened. Until next time, happy listening. Audiobook Lovin hopes you have enjoyed this program.